Olcay Yilmazcoban, co-founder and CEO of Senpai.gg. Jung Sunghoon, sports practice leader at DLA Plus Architecture and Interior Design. And Saad Khan, founder and CEO of Gamers Hub Middle East. All right, welcome to Busan, everybody. Thank you all for joining me as panelists on this panel discussion for exploring new esports technology. It's good to have you here. And so let's go ahead and get started to talking about esports technology. I think this is something that was obviously spoken about in relation to monitor technology earlier, but in some sense, esports is technology. There's so much that goes into that. It's always changing, it's always developing. So my first question is kind of general, and you can all have opportunities to talk about the way in which technology impacts your experience in esports. So each of you work in esports either tangentially or directly. What technologies are primary to the way that, or to your experience in esports with your companies, or even just as an esports fan like we all are?
So I can start with that, and I can elaborate on this. So we as Gamers Hub, one of the largest tournament organizers in the Middle East, and as we speak, we'll be launching a platform by the end of this year. And the technologies which we are focusing on will be blockchain. We're looking at blockchain in that. We're looking at a lot of AI and ML, which will be used for coaching and for monitoring how gamers are actually looking at what their interests are. And these are the two major things. And of course, as organizers, we also look at touching upon AR and VR. So when we do offline tournaments, at that point in time, we'll be looking at AR and VR on this.
Yeah, following that, Saad, we are also working on AI technologies. So Senpai.gg is basically AI-based gaming assistant. So we work with various AI technologies to enhance the gaming experience of esports players and the gamers. So to start with, I think I want to emphasize the esports industry advantage compared to the traditional sports and other sports. So we have availability of data for the casual and the competitive gamers as well. So if you're an NBA player, you need to get all these fancy sensors and hardware to track all this data. But in esports, we have all this data available for the gamers by nature. So that enables us to develop a lot of different features to enhance the gaming experience of the esport players. So what we do at Senpai.gg, so we basically use two different technologies. The first one is based on deep learning. So we have an AI model that we train with millions and millions of games. So basically it understands what it takes to win a game and provides you insights and recommendations to improve your gameplay. And we also can understand the events in the game. And based on that, we can create some video highlights for the gamers so they can watch and learn from the professional players and the good players. And this technology is more driven by computer vision. And by this way, we are trying to improve the gameplay of the gamers, providing them some coaching by utilizing the AI technologies.
Good afternoon. I actually take the follow-up with Olcay. I kind of echo some sense of what Saad and Olcay already mentioned. I just sports architect. The technology part, from my perspective for the esport, is more about the actual experiential side of how the fans are watching the game, whether in the venue or through the media. So, like Olcay said, we are very interested in how this sort of the new generation is the millennials and Generation Z, and it reacts to the esports contents and how they sort of consume and perceive and using especially augmented reality technology, we kind of how we can package those the data and information from the players or from the game, and putting that information and data into or even onto the reality, which is actual the gameplay. So, for example, we have seen those kind of example already in the actual traditional sports, whether AT&T Stadium for the Dallas Cowboys. They are kind of working with Samsung and AT&T, with the Next Studio, kind of putting those data and displaying on top of the actual gameplay through the media, and also even using the cell phones, even in venue, they can project or even kind of looking the data through their actual phone, and kind of covering on top of the existing stadium. So you kind of have those kind of the newer sort of AR technology, and giving you more of the immersive experience for the fans, and that gives the much more sort of unique and kind of the different types of experience for the fans, and even for the esports. So that's kind of the technologies that we are very interested in as an architect, and giving a different types of experience.
To add on to that, sorry, if you have a question, we can continue.
No, go ahead, Saad, I think.
So to add on to that, basically what we are also doing is a lot of virtual sets at the moment because of COVID, because everything has gone online. And to add to Sung's point, we are also doing a lot of augmented reality projections during the game. And there's a lot of analytics which comes in. And then obviously with Olcay, we also have partnerships with different types of companies, which helps you, get quicker highlights for the game. So we can actually create that content and show it during the semifinals and finals. And that actually helps speed up the time. So the AI technology really helps on that piece of it. And that's how we are actually incorporating both these technologies to enhance the game experience.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of that AR technology, I kind of see lots of potential, for that. Especially, we have seen those kind of things already adapted to, many traditional sports, including even 2018 FIFA World Cup games. They actually adapted that technology already, and also 2019 NBA playoff. They kind of have the inter-true view. So all those things are very much evolved already for past couple of years. So since the nature of the esports, being more of the technology-driven, kind of the sports, then there are lots of potentials to use those kind of technology and make this content much more appealing to the younger generation.
Yeah, I think I will totally agree with you, Sung, in terms of the content. So esport is basically a content-driven industry. So basically, if you're a gamer, it's great to see all this visualization about what happened during the game. It's a great experience. So if you're a tournament organizer, you would like to have all this data enabled, so the viewers have better experience. On top of that, you're also able to, with the AI, you're also able to understand which part of the content will be most engaging for the viewers, for the gamers. So basically, you can have short video clips based on the interest of the audience or the gamers for that. So I think so AI is not only providing performance analysis, analytic, or data visualization right now. It's also started to create some content for the gamers, so you can use it as a learning material first, like we do at Senpai.gg. But the other dimension is the content can be used for the fan engagement as well. So basically, you can follow your most popular pro players. What happened last week? What are the pentakills that I want to see? In 2 minutes, you can watch all of them, and you can feed your content with the best based on your interest.
And Ojai, I think I'm glad you mentioned about the fan engagement because kind of level of fan engagement has been changing, especially with this technology. So especially for the teams and players, how they engage with their fans, and now the SNS is much more important, the medium for the players and teams engage with their fans, whether in the stadium or whether remotely, between a few different cities. So I think this technology really helps a lot about those engagement, the communication between the teams and players and their fans. So that has another level of engagement that helps a lot of different fan experience.
Yeah, exactly. It will not only be sharing some content on the social media. So I believe in the near future we will see in-game based engagement experiences. For example, you play with your best favorite pro player in the actual game, and there could be a lot of gamification in that specific game and enhance the gaming experience.
Right, and we all know that this COVID-19, the pandemic environment, kind of hurting a lot on many different sports, even including esports, because it is very, very difficult for the fans going to the arena and watch the game, live events, actual. But because of this, now the teams and players are taking advantage of this sort of bad situation and turning that into an opportunity, and how this technology can help this situation and make this as an opportunity to even improve their engagement through the technology for the next level. So I think we will see lots of different things happening for next year or year after.
The in-game piece also helps a lot for nice spots to be placed for sponsors and partners. If you work very closely with the publishers, so obviously you see a lot of what you call a viewership and a lot of eyeballs on the sponsorship, which is helping the ecosystem, which also obviously helps drive more money into the ecosystem of esports. And with a good AI and ML platform, which helps in coaching, or it helps in ranking and matchmaking, or even if you can say with machine learning, you can have some customized based on user experience, or AI agents can help you guess exactly what an individual is likely to purchase. All this kind of helps the brands and the sponsors to keep keep at it and to help the ecosystem grow for us.
Yeah, exactly. Great point, Saad. So I think ad placement will be another new area for the tech companies for gaming and esports, because actually you can place the ads really while you're playing. Gamers can see in a very natural environment and can be aware of different brands. And it's exciting. We already see several pioneering in the industry. And I think it will be a huge industry, and it will accelerate the growth of esports.
And even the entertainment aspect of like if you've seen entertainment and whole sets of all the big entertainment guys coming in and having a set before a game also has become a very important part of the actual experience. So that's really helping us to grow and come up with new ideas on how to actually collaborate with different partners and to see how much of technology we can bring together, and give the gamer and sponsors the value for the buck.
I just want to mention or touch on a few of the topics that you all mentioned. Obviously, there's many esports technologies or buzzwords that we've been throwing around: AR, VR, blockchain, cryptocurrency, all of those things. And each one of you interact primarily with maybe different aspects or maybe some overlapping ones. So I wanted to give each of you an opportunity to talk about the technologies and the uses for that technology that you each have. So I guess I'll open it up to Olcay, you mentioned your usage of AI with senpai.gg, and obviously you've been keeping an eye on AI usage in esports in general. I wondered if you could share share with some of us more of maybe a comprehensive idea of what AI is both capable of and being used for, because I think some people might incorrectly assume that it's the computer opponent they play against in a game. I mean, maybe that's an AI, but certainly there's a lot more opportunities and a lot more uses for that technology in esports.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the gamers knows AI bots that they play against, but AI is more capable of playing just as a component or opponent. So first, AI is able to create a lot of insights from the data. And as I said, esports is very rich in terms of the data. So with that perspective, so since you have all this massive data from the casual players, competitive players, not only the professional players, it enables you to provide performance analysis first, and then some win probability estimations. So with this data, you train your AI models and you understand the dynamics of the game, insights of the game, and you can provide some recommendations for the gamers, casual gamers, to improve their gameplay. Or as a team, you can provide some insights about their strategy, their opponents, how they play. So based on that, they can change the strategy in the game. So the second part, as I said, so AI is able to track all these informations on behalf of you. So as a human, you're capable of watching several streams a day, right? But what AI can do is it can watch all the streamers, like say thousands of the streamers or thousands of the professional players or the good players, and based on your in-game data and the historical data, so it understands your interests. So based on that, we can provide a better experience for the gamers based on their interest, provide them the best content in the market that is available for them. So that is the second part. And at the senpai.gg, we are trying to more focus on providing some insights for the gamers so they can improve their gameplay. And the second, they can watch from the pro players, learn from the pro players based on their interests. But in the industry, in overall, as I said, AI is more used to have some insights. Like the performance analysis, I said, and creating some content, not only for learning perspective, for the fun engagement perspective. And if we go one level up, so AI is much capable of, and there are several applications in the industry. The other one is matchmaking. So, for example, you want to have the best teammate in your team, and you don't know who that person is. And AI is capable to find the perfect team member for your team, and it's much better to play with the person that match with your skills in the game, and have a diverse skills in the team. And the other one is, as Saad mentioned, the sponsorship value. So with the AI, we are able to understand the demographics of the followers of that brand, their interests, and based on that, you can find the best match between the teams, brands, and the sponsors to provide the best value for every player in the ecosystem. And I think these are the most important applications. But AI is also used as cheating and fraud detection in the gaming industry as overall, I would say.
Thank you very much. Another technology, I think Saad mentioned this earlier, is your use of blockchain in your application to esports. Can you talk a little bit about specifically what that is and how you apply it to esports?
So at the moment, we are getting into the whole idea of tokenization, and obviously with blockchain coming along, it'll be a decentralized platform which can help the industry stakeholders to connect. Obviously, it's a secure in-app purchases you can get. You can create greater autonomy of players. Streaming donations can be done through blockchain. Blockchain also gives you the algorithms to, and cryptocurrency transactions are immutable, basically. So basically what you see is there's a lot of trust which comes in from the player side. We can facilitate creation and trading of rarer in-game assets also, which is easier for crowdfunding also. So all these ecosystems of blockchain can really help create loyalty and a robust system for people to trust, and especially giving away of prize pools, which is very important for esports, right? It has to be done in a very trusted manner, which helps is through blockchain actually.
Thank you very much. I think, Sung, one of the technologies that you mentioned when discussing specifically the way that you interact with esports mainly, and that is through the architecture and design of esports stadiums like this Busan Esports Stadium, is the ways in which data and content is visualized by fans in that stadium experience. So what do you think is the right technology, or if there is several, that allows that data visualization to be shown to the fans in the best way?
Just imagine that you are in the esports arena. You are in the Busan Esports right now, and you are watching the game, and whether you're watching the actual team and the players are playing on the stage, or you are actually watching the actual game through the larger screen hung above of the stage in the Busan Esports Arena. But everybody has a different flavor and different way of watching the game. So the personalization of the experience is another important, kind of aspect of this fan experience these days. So if you are using your phone, and your phone will be in a second screen on top of the existing the large LED screen in the arena, and the software can help to customize the view of the game, whether it's the view of the actual player or whether it's the view of the actual game in the PC. The second screen, which is your cell phone, can produce different types of contents, which will give you many different types of data, whether it's the game data or whether it's the data about the players in the teams. And the game itself already has lots of data displayed on the screen, but the data and on the screen is kind of limited to a certain information by the player or by the game. But you can choose different types of data and information through your phone, and you can have those kind of customized data and information that fits for your needs and your information. So that is part of the augmented reality, that AR technology can help you to get different types of information and data that you see on top of the same information and data that everybody share in the arena. So I think that kind of gives very, very powerful engagement and the experience for the fans, especially when you are in the venue on the arena to watch the game in many different ways.
Now, one technology that has been brought up several times is AR, or augmented reality. And I think a lot of people look at that in either opposition or comparison to VR, or virtual reality. If you have a physical stadium, which I think most people are familiar with, then you have another layer on top of that with augmented reality. But when you have a virtual environment, then all of that can be kind of combined. So what are each of your thoughts on AR, VR, and the pros and cons of each one? Do you think one is better than the other, or how are they different?
Yeah, I personally go for AR, so it's my favorite one, because you have a relation with the physical environment. I think this is the key. Because it's more engaging if you're touching the physical environment, and it's a better gaming experience, I would say. So I would like to connect it to the Sung's point. So watching and viewing the esport content is very different compared to the traditional sports. So in traditional sports, you have the ball, and you just need to keep where the ball is, and all the important event happens around the ball. But for the esports, it's totally different because at the same time, three different things can happen in the esport game, and you want to see all of them, and you want to see the most important one in that specific time. So there could be like 2-3 different team fights in the map, and you would like to see the most engaging one in that specific moment. For that reason, I think the viewing experience can be enhanced in esports in a very dramatical way with the technology because of this nature of the esports. And VR is like excellent technology, but I think since you're disconnected with the physical environment, it has some advantage and disadvantage. But I personally favor the AR because you touch to the physical environment in the venue or at home, it doesn't matter. So you touch the physical environment and you enhance the gaming experience and the viewing experience at the same time.
I mean, I 100% agree with Ojai's perspective, and I do agree. I prefer AR over VR for few different reasons. I already talked about AR already much. But for the VR has different types of merits. But if technology is far advanced and if true VR can be realized, then you may not need stadium anymore because you can have that virtual experience in your living room exact the same way as you are sitting in the stands and sitting in the stadium. Then you don't have to go to the stadium anymore. So the true perfect VR may be able to replace the in-stadium or in-venue experience, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, or maybe may not be able to be done that way forever. But different way of the VR. For example, the like a player's view. If you are actually within the field, within the game, that kind of the VR experience could be very interesting. Instead of you're just watching the screen, if you are within the game, if you are actually within the battlefield, then that sort of the VR could be very interesting. Again, just replacing your in-venue experience while you are sitting in the living room, that's going to be probably ultimate and ideal goal for the VR. But I don't know, whether that's going to happen or anytime soon. So I still feel that for the current technology and more of the useful the technology that we can adapt for the current experience or even near future, I think AR kind of could work far better than VR from my perspective.
I think Olcay and Soon have covered most of the points of AR and VR, but I think from my perspective, I prefer AR also myself. I think it can create the smallest experience and make it look really, really interesting for viewership. And from an affordability point of view, which I think is also from the VR on the negative side, is it's the VR sets and what's available at the moment is extremely expensive. And hence, for the technology to actually be available for everybody, and especially with what Sung has said, that the getting into the game and experiencing the whole 360 view and being part of the battlefield itself is software-wise is going to be extremely expensive to get into, and B, obviously consumers trying to afford that kind of that experience at home is going to be another discussion altogether. But I think AR is right now the experience everybody looks for, and I think it's just getting better every day, and the technology is getting better, and the ideation behind it also is getting better. So I think I think AR is the way to go.
All right, thank you very much for your opinions on that. One of the technologies that we haven't really touched on just yet that I saw discussed a lot in some of our previous panels and also in some of our previous discussions that we had together is the technology of 5G. We've talked a lot about AR and VR relating to the in-person or the viewership experience, but 5G is a technology that is allowing more people than ever before to view and interact with esports content. So what do you think is the significance of the 5G technology and the ways in which it can be used in esports?
Yeah, I think the most significant application of 5G will be cloud gaming services. If we look at the overall system as an engineering perspective, so there's a software part that I briefly mentioned about the applications of AI. The other part is the hardware. And currently, gamers and the esport players need to buy all this expensive hardware to be able to play the games because you need this edge computing power to play this all complex and high resolution games. And what 5G will enable is it will solve this high latency problem, basically. So when you solve this problem, you enable a lot of different ways for the gamers. First, you don't need this expensive hardware for every gamer or esport players. So basically, you can connect to the clouds. Since the data transmission and the internet speed is very fast at 5G, so you can play in a remote cloud server and see the game on your laptop or PC or on your mobile device. And this is, I think, will be the game-changing moment for the esport as well, because right now we are not utilizing the mobile as one of the platform for the esports, mainly because the limited edge processing capabilities. But with the 5G and the cloud gaming services, I think we will see a lot of different games in esports that a lot of casual players also can participate with their just using their mobile phones and devices, and it will increase the fan base of esports, I believe, and it will accelerate the growth of esport and the gaming ecosystem overall.
I mean, it's interesting. In Olcay, you mentioned about cloud. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but when we kind of start concept of the Busan Esports Arena, we actually started with the word cloud. So we kind of having a Busan Esports Arena, the concept as the esports on the cloud. There are multiple implications of the cloud for the Busan Esports Arena, because Busan Esports Arena is actually on the 15th and 16th floor of the high-rise tower in the middle of downtown Busan. So you are basically sitting up in the air, which kind of we say walk on the cloud and esports in the cloud. That physical implication is one thing. Also using the cloud service for their gaming system, which I don't know if they really have that, in their system or not. But if that happens, then that the actual cloud computing is another implication of the Busan Esports Arena. So that kind of reminds me of sort of the cloud, the word itself, as implication of the Busan Esports Arena concept. But for the 5G, from my perspective, when you go to the venue, you actually want to connect to the Wi-Fi, in venue, and you kind of each arena and the stadium needs to have lots of Wi-Fi device and kind of make all the phones are connected to their Wi-Fi system. But with the 5G, you actually can avoid lots of those kind of Wi-Fi device anymore, because you have enough bandwidth, and then you kind of don't have to worry about the latency issues, especially with those AR or VR contents that you need to have in your mobile device. Then that 5G kind of help a lot about having those kind of communications and having the data and information on your mobile device without having extra hardware or the infrastructure within the venue. So that helps that sort of the AR and VR in a way that there are more opportunities to realize those kind of technologies through the data with the 5G technology in the future.
So as tournament organizers, we have to also look at cross-platform, and this low latency which is happening, and high bandwidth of 5G really helps us organize the tournaments far better than what it used to be. But over the next 1 or 2 years, we'll have to see how this technology actually plays out. Again, I'm coming to a cost perspective, how telecoms are going to deal with the bandwidth, and what are they actually going to give, and how are they actually going to implement that across cities in terms of usability. And like you said, connecting away from the Wi-Fi and having a direct connection on 5G would be great, but it is completely a very high infrastructure-driven cost, which has to be seen, and people have to actually bear that and look at it from offering these services. So I think 5G is going to play a very, very important role. It's going to make things very simpler, and like Olcay said, it's a game changer, and we're looking forward to it, because that's what you can have. You have the entire power in your hand. With 5G, everything just happens from the palm of your hand, right? And that's what the beauty of this is. And hopefully we'll be there to facilitate all of that experience together.
Thank you all for your answers. Before we move on to one of our final topics in this panel discussion, I just want to mention to everyone watching online that if you have questions for our panelists after the panel discussion, we'll be taking those. So go ahead and leave those for our panelists by visiting GEES20.com or by typing them in the YouTube chat. And if you can let us know where you're asking your question from in the world, that would also help us as well. So get your questions ready, because we will have a question and answer portion after this panel discussion. And as we move towards the end of this panel discussion and the end of GES 20, I want to ask all of you about your thoughts on the future, not just about esports, as nebulous a concept as that is, but specifically based on our topic of exploring new technologies in esports. Moving forward, what do you think are going to be the key technologies, whether it's something we've talked about already or things we haven't brought up? What are the technologies of the future as far as esports is concerned?
Okay, let me go first. I think I already mentioned, but it's very important to emphasize these two technologies. Regarding the most important thing I think in the future and right now is the personalization. So a lot of solutions in the market or the content in the market is very general. So you need to dig into this and find the related content yourself. And as a gamer, it's very frustrating. So after your gaming experience, none of these solutions know anything about you. So they behave same for every gamers in the market, in the industry. So I think the personalization will be a game-changing in the esport industry in upcoming years, and that will be enabled by in-game and the historical game data of the gamers. And this is the most enhancing experience for the gaming, I would say. I will also, as we discuss, visualization is very, very important, as Sung mentions, and it can be enabled by not only AI, but also AR and VR technologies. And the second component we already mentioned is the hardware. I think the connectivity technologies, if we have a very, very high-speed internet, so not everybody, it will be very democratizing for all the gamers, because not all the gamers have this expensive gaming laptops or the PCs to participate the gaming ecosystem. So if we have the technologies that will enable everybody to join and play games and be a part of this huge ecosystem, I think it will be game-changing for the industry.
Okay, I'll go second. I probably want to answer to that question in a little different way of not really telling you what technology will be important in the future, rather how the technology is important or can be used, for the esports, because esports is a sport, and even though we are consuming esports through the technology in many different ways, whether through the streaming service or whether through the TV or whether you are actually playing the game by yourself, all those things are related to technology. But still, we as a human being, we consume still those esports contents in a very traditional way. We are still watching the esports. We are still hearing people's voice. We are still chanting together. We are still, kind of cheering together. And how we can kind of, emphasize or even sort of simulate or emulate, those human experience through the technology. So, I'm more interested in, kind of how to use the technology to give a better human experience, and how human experience can consume those esports contents, other than just keep moving towards this technology. Because the most important thing is how we experience the esports contents rather than the technology itself. Because technology is just a medium. Technology is just a tool to help us as a human being having a better experience in the esports. So let's focus a little bit off from the technology itself, rather what's really the goal, what the goal is, what the really essence of the technology. Because technology is not in the center. We as a human being will be on center, and technology can help us to get it better. So I like to, have that as my answer, to that question.
So on my side of things, big data and data centers are going to play a very big role. I think that's going to be very important for us to, have cities which have big data centers, which will facilitate the ecosystem. We are also looking at, we have already mentioned a few of the technologies before, but cloud computing is going to be very, very important. And blockchain, which is going to be the future. We are also looking at what if we said, if all the VR headsets became extremely cheap and they came down and the experience became, immersive, and we were actually able to see and feel the entire game in-house, as what Sung had mentioned earlier. I think if that's the thing which we can achieve in the next couple of years, I think that's going to be a really important aspect of what the future looks like. So I think, yes, that's what we would look at in terms of new technologies.
All right, thank you all for your contribution and a lot of those exciting looks at the future of technology, specifically in esports, or when it comes to Sung's answer, whatever technology it is that allows us to experience esports more deeply as people. It's been a great panel discussion, and even though we've come to the end of our panel discussion, we still have a few more minutes to take questions for our panelists on the topic of exploring new technology in esports. So if you have any questions, feel free to submit those to us by either going to GEES20.com or leaving your question in the IESF YouTube channel chat. We'll be taking questions from those places and asking our panelists. So think of some good questions, and we'll go ahead and get started with that Q&A. So it looks like our first question is, we see new game tech that makes gameplay more and more physical. We play the games using our physical bodies more and more. Can you tell us about some interesting tech being developed in that area? So allowing games to be played in a more physical way.
I think, as we mentioned in the panel, so if you connect with the physical world, that is a game changing, because as human beings, we are really get used to do the physical stuff and with the physical environment. For that reason, AR is one of the key technologies for enhancing the gaming experience, I would say. And for this one, we are seeing a lot of console games and console companies developing this physical activity involved games. And I think it's basically driven by the sensor technology. So if you like how good you are able to track the measurements of the gamer, that is the one issue. And then the second one is like it's like all like, and overall, if you look at this domain, it's like an IoT space, I would say. And IoT is like exploding in a lot of different industry. And I believe there will be much more applications in the esports as well, because when we have all this, for example, if you can track the heartbeat of the gamer, and if you can have this temperature sensor and movement sensor about the eye, so where the players is looking when playing the game, and the movements. So you have much rich data, not only regarding the game, but about the physical environment as well. And I think it's just the beginning of this era as well. So we are seeing the early applications in the console games, I would say, but I think it will be involved in the esports in the near future as well.
I mean, that question reminds me of using the VR for the actual athletes when they practice. Even though still, when you play football or the soccer or the baseball, you actually play physically. And you are not really using VR to do actual competition. So the physical aspect of the actual kind of sports games is not realized yet. It's not really competitive. But in the practice side, the athletes, professional athletes, they are already using those technology, especially the VR gear, when they do the practice. So it is kind of interesting that when we design the practice facilities for NBA player, NBA teams, or NFL teams, they actually ask us to design the VR room as a separate. So we designed the VR room for the players to actually practice, actual game through the VR gear within the VR room. So that VR room can be easily converted to the actual playroom, the game room, that you can play the actual game. But if the technology get more advanced, I think you can have those kind of competitive, actual physical game using the VR gear, and then, but still, I think it's not that level of the competition yet. But it's more used for the practice. So I'm not sure how quickly those kind of physical game or physical aspect of the actual esports can be adapted. But I can tell it is used a lot more for the actual practice of the physical sports.
Just to add to that, actually, we have been invited last year to Japan in Tokyo, and there's a company called Hado, which does esports physical activation of games, and the whole experience is actually on a court where you have maybe 2 players or 3 players or 4 players playing against each other with a VR set, and they have the data on their hand, on the wrist, and then they have a VR headset, and the whole experience actually is tracked, and you can actually see the AR aspect of it as a viewer. And the entire analytics and the dashboard is there for people to see and experience how these guys are playing on the floor. And that's becoming now a pretty strong esports, or I would say, a sport which is coming up as a new technology, so tech sport, not even esports. And that's the new emergence I can see of VR being applied here. And the other thing also we are seeing is obviously all the VR sets already have these older games like Beat Saber, fitness boxing, and you have these other, FPS games, emulators which have come out with the whole machine being there, and you can actually shoot and then track, the positioning of the player. So all of this is coming up, and I think this is going to be quite interesting for us as tournament organizers to bring these new experiences to the consumer.
All right, thank you very much for your answers. We've got another question here that says, will we ever see a time when AI esports players will compete as part of a professional team?
So it's good to refer to OpenAI's experiment, I would say. If you remember the initiative of Elon Musk, they have a prototype. They have demonstrated playing against the professional players with the AI bots. And I think it's just a demonstration of the technology. So what they want to show us is like AI is capable of playing a very complex game. It can take very complex decisions that we do not think it can. So basically, it's a tech demonstration. I would say AI will be team instead of AI will be a team member. We will see AI teams that you train. So imagine you're an esport team. So you would like to train in the best environment for the next tournaments or competition. So what AI can do is it can mimic your opponents. So imagine that before going to the tournament, you play against a very similar version of your opponents as an AI. So you can try your strategies, get feedback, and improve your team strategies overall. So, in my personal opinion, AI will not compete us. It will enable us to learn faster by assisting us to give better decisions and utilizing better strategies.
Okay, well, thank you for your answer, and right back to you, because this question is directed at Olcay. What feedback have you been getting from esports athletes about your esports strategy analysis tools?
So basically, Senpai.gg is for every casual and competitive player. It's not for the professional players. So in that perspective, we are targeting the much bigger portion of the gamers, but not by just focusing on top professional players. Because when you go to that professional level, it's a little bit changing the perspective. Because if you're a professional player in a specific game, it means that you already know all the dynamics of the game, and when you do a mistake, you're already aware of it, and you don't need someone to assist you in that perspective. So I believe the professional level, we need team-based analysis and recommendation about the strategies of the overall team. But if we look at the casual or competitive players, we can focus on the individual performance, because by nature, all these gamers want to improve their gameplay. And AI has a lot of capabilities to provide instant feedback just after the game, during the game, or before the game, to increase your win probability first, and providing you some insightful feedback about your gameplay. So I think the quick answer will be this.
Thank you very much. This next question is for Saad Khan. Do you think that esports event teams and organizers will use this period of time during 2020 to find long-term ways to increase remote fan engagement, or simply take short-term mitigation measures until live events with full arenas return?
But I think as event organizers at the moment, I think we are on the online mode of running tournaments. And I think at this point of time, we continue to do so. But what we are seeing is obviously coming in the long run, we can see there'll be a hybrid model. There'll always be an online aspect, which will be utilized. And then when COVID is over, then you're looking at an offline aspect, which could be utilized for larger tournaments. So I think the model which we currently use also is online qualifiers, with the semifinals and finals coming offline. And that's the model which I think has been successful, and that's there to stay. But if COVID continues, we can still have, only the online aspect of it.
All right, thank you very much. This next question comes to us from Senegal, West Africa. And this question is to Mr. Jung. How do architects use either Unreal Engine or Unity or other technologies to create stadium experiences in homes with VR. So I think the question is about the creation of stadium experiences with VR. How has that been done, and how has it been successful or unsuccessful?
So that using the VR to simulate the actual in-venue experience has been kind of developed, for quite certain years. Even Microsoft, for example, they have a HoloLens that kind of trying to replace the in-venue experience, from your living room using the VR. And also there are, a few other companies actually trying to establish those kind of, VR, actually in-venue experience through VR. But it hasn't been that successful. And again, as I said earlier, it is not meant to replace the actual in-venue experience 100%. Rather, it kind of, giving, it has pros and cons. When you go to the venue, you have to wait on the line, and you have to wait on the line when you go in, and you have to wait on the line when you go to the bathroom, in the restrooms, and you have certain types of uncomfortability there. But when you are watching from your living room, then of course you have all those comfortable environment. But still, the VR was not successful to replace the actual in-venue experience up until today. And again, I don't think it's going to happen for any time soon. But it is coming. And again, for now, it was not that successful yet.
All right, thank you very much. Our next question is a little bit more fun, and it's asking about the examples of crazy future technologies. So this one specifically asks, there are a lot of futuristic movies out there that portray future gaming environments. For example, Ready Player One. Are there any technologies from movies or that you've seen that stand out to you, or that you expect to see become a reality in the future?
Well, I don't remember the name of the movie, but I think one of the movie is about the actual I think the players are riding the inline skating, and then they kind of fight inside of the cage, or it's a kind of tracks, and but it doesn't really have the actual stadia or the seating, and rather it's kind of production studio. It's not only about the technology, but it's more about how you produce the content, sports contents, and how the consumers actually consume the sports contents. So I think that kind of could be pretty much realistic in the near future, that you can have the arena which is only for playing sports, not really watching sports, and all the consumption of the sports is through the media. So I think that movie kind of clicks me about what the future arena could be, looks like. So I don't know. I don't remember the name of the movie, but I think that's kind of pretty interesting, for thinking about the future.
Actually, I also recall one of these movies where, but all is based on, having an avatar or yourself, being at home and experiencing your immersive experience going out there and actually doing something in the real world, and that actually implicates your real life also. But actually, it's not you physically which is going out there, but it's your avatar which is out there, and actually it creates a whole scheme of wrong and the good things which happen, which actually come and hit you in the real life. It's very complicated, but a very good concept. I mean, it was kind of strikes you and says, what if this was actually happening? You're just staying at home, but somebody else does. Your brain is out there, does something, comes back, and you don't even know about it. You know.
In a lot of different movies, so there are a lot of inspiring moments. But I could say when we have enhanced technology, it also enhance our gaming experience, and it takes our physical environment awareness and if we immerse us in an environment like we are, and it's like a physical environment for us in terms of the sensing. I think it will change everything. So basically, we can live in a gaming space all the time, like in the several movies, right? Because you're losing your awareness about the physical world in that moment, and you're already in the game, but you're not aware that you're in the game.
A lot of exciting examples there, and I just want to thank all of you on this panel for not only your discussions during the panel, but also for answering some of the wonderful questions left online. And of course, a big thanks to everybody online for submitting your questions. That is going to bring us to the end of our final panel discussion. So to Olcay, Sung, and Saad, thank you so much for your participation in this panel on exploring esports technology.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you.
And